Us Singaporeans have two things that make us distinct. Our one-of-a-kind, notorious, sometimes hated accent, which we so proudly call Singlish, and our also interesting taxi drivers. My friend and I live near the same area, and one of our friends suggested having a round of shots at a pub downtown. We flagged a taxi, where I rushed in the front seat and my friend, accepting he will have to sit in the back, started pacing himself towards sitting in the back. In the middle of the taxi driver and myself were his legs spread like a 20-year-old's Virgin Mary after having a few shots. "Clark Quay Avenue?" I said.
"Seatbelt,"
he replied, and we hit the road.
"How old?"
he said as he drove about 5 minutes from where we first left. What? I looked at him confused, though knowing exactly what he meant. My buddy and I looked like a bunch of dropouts, and myself, after a regretful last-minute shave, I looked more of a child than the old taxi driver's photo of what seemed to be his son in a carriage next to his air conditioning dispenser. Before I could reply, he burst out laughing.
"Wow, look so scared, huh? I play joke only, he said, with a heavy Malaysian-influenced Singlish dialect. I still told him I was 19 and my buddy was 20, just so he wouldn't get the wrong picture of us. He clearly didn't, or if he did, he was very comfortable with the underage drinking. "My 16th birthday, went to pub. So many drinks, man. Best night of my life, I tell you."
He was a very comforting person, making us feel like he was another one of our members heading for another drink. My buddy, playing around and wanting to break the ice some more, asked, "How can you drive? Your hair's in the way." I turned around, lightly punching my friend at the top of his head as he laughed, joined with the taxi driver who my buddy probably half offended as this taxi driver was bald. I apologized for my friend's stupidity to the taxi driver, to which he said,
"Your friend was just like me when I was young."
Like most taxi drivers in Singapore, he then began to rant about how childhood is such a great thing and eventually, like most taxi drivers in Singapore, began talking about his life, which unlike every taxi driver in Singapore, was very, very different. He told us how he didn't have a religion, and after my friend asked why, he replied his father was a leader of a satanic cult. My friend and I are both people who neither deny nor accept that there is a God, so we really weren't bothered by anything, though it was quite creepy. I assume it was satanic as he carefully said his father was against God, and not God's existence. God is there, but he does not know how to control us, to which he then said,
"So, my father like someone that prayed for demon, entity, like that. Sometimes, he tell us we have to bring friend over, friend come over, never come out again, you know? He usually take one that like to drink, give him a drink, then again, can him, and gone."
I asked, "No jail?" He said,
"You think I never go police? I was drinker, yeah? Lucky never fine for drinking."
I didn't know how to reply, after understanding this man's father is a crazy, demon-worshipping maniac that sacrifices kids. My friend did, though, completely unconvinced about the whole idea, saying, "Wow, your father seems crazy as fuck. Kill kids, huh?" The taxi driver didn't reply until a red light, which was a whole awkward minute away.
"Never kill one. Turn them into people like me."
"So who the fuck are you?" my friend said, creeped out now as he was bringing out his slightly Australian accent as though a defense mechanism.
"Worker. Drive taxi."
I said, "No, like, what does your father turn the kids into?" Angrily, he slowly recited,
"Workers. Workers. I drive taxi. Others do different."
My friend and I looked at each other.
Our stop was nearby, but another red light saved us so we could be able to ask him more questions. What did your father do to you? I said immediately.
Not about what father does to me, about what we do for him. We do everything, anything he wants. Become fatba, become sell boys, make royal generation line, or become taxi drivers like me, like rotation, like that.
My buddy immediately asked him what fatba was, which he replied,
Language, yeah? Slut, like that.
So, what do taxi drivers do?
Find more boys.
We were at our stop. I was wondering the entire time, why didn't he take us in to his father? Why he had told us this story? Why he would say something about it, or even anything? I nervously said as I handed him the money. So, why didn't you take us in then?
You said you were 19.
He looked me in the eye, then burst laughing.
I play joke only. I play joke only.
And he immediately took the money. I closed the door, awkwardly smiling, and he was off. My buddy and I stood there, looking at each other as we saw the taxi drive past us. We saw in the distance the same taxi signaling the vehicle stopped. He picked up 2 kids. It was 11:54 p.m. when the automatic doors slid open onto the outside world. In the cocoon of fluorescent lights and elevator music, I'd almost forgotten about the storm raging outside. I pulled my coat up over my head to shelter from the rain and jogged back to my cab. The door shut behind me and muffled the downpour. I tore open the packet of M&Ms I just bought and tipped half the pack into my mouth. That's about all the time I'd have for food. It was Friday night. Everyone wants a taxi on Friday night. I set off, my wipers working at full speed. That was when I saw her. She was standing alone at the bus stop in the dark. One of the streetlights directly above her was failing and flickering. I could see her looking at it, nervous. She was scared. I couldn't really blame her. You get some goddamn weirdos in these parts. She had long, flowing, dark brown hair. It was plastered to the side of her neck from the rain, and her mascara had run in streaks down her face, but she still looked beautiful. Her arms were crossed tightly in front of her chest in a feeble attempt to keep warm. I pulled up my cab against the sidewalk and wound down my window. "Hey, the buses don't run this late," I warned her. "You're shitting me." "No, ma'am. Where are you heading? I can take you." She told me she didn't have enough money for a cab. She got separated from her friends at a bar and had to scrape together change for the bus. I told her I couldn't in good conscience let her stand in the dark alone at this time of night, so I offered to take her for a ride for no charge. As if on cue, a drum roll of thunder rumbled across the sky. I guess it was all the convincing she needed that anywhere was better than being outside. She climbed into the back, soaking wet. Her clothes squeaked against the leather interior as she shifted along the seat. She thanked me again. "It's no trouble. I wouldn't want my daughter standing out in this," I said. We got talking on the ride. She told me she's a nursing student, lives alone after her boyfriend broke up with her. She was new to the city, hadn't made many friends yet. In return, I told her about my failed marriage, figured she wouldn't feel so bad if she wasn't the only loner in the car. I told her she reminded me of my daughter, and she laughed with me as I reeled off stupid stories of my attempts at parenting. After a while, the conversation fell short, as it does. I turned the radio on and looked at her in my rearview mirror. I don't know how long I watched her, but God, she was mesmerizing. She glanced up and caught me looking.
I cleared my throat and looked back out the window, but I saw her smile. We eventually got to her apartment complex and said our goodbyes. She slid across the seating again and disappeared into the fog and rain. I sat for a bit and thought about going after her. A stupid idea. I was about to leave when she reappeared at the passenger side and climbed in, pulling out a pen and taking my hand in one swift motion. I can't believe I'm about to do this, but what you did tonight was really nice. She started to write her number across the back of my hand. Give me a call sometime? She grinned. Bingo! Works every time. Tell them about your daughter and your pathetic little divorce using your big sad eyes the whole time. I don't have a daughter. I've never been married. I took the pen from her hand and smiled. Then I drove it into her neck. They always look so surprised. There was more blood than I would have liked this time. I'd have to wash my seats again. Her eyes rolled back in her head, and she passed out. Doesn't usually take long. I reached under her seat and collapsed her chair back. Didn't need anyone seeing her now. I wiped the blood off her side of the window and started the car again. She started making those gasping sounds they always make. It was 12:16 when they stopped.